might as well get rolling. So, thank you all for coming. This is a wonderful turnout. I am the official introducer of our star. So I have a little story to tell you about Tim, just to give you a background and kind of give it some context. So, essentially, until you know his story, you can't understand what a joy it is for him to have each and every one of you here for what is his very first comedy performance. Not to say he's new to comedy, though. Two very important things to understand is first that he comes from a family of comedians in their own right, and more so, a fact that I was very surprised with that he shared with me recently is that he and his father are both stutterers. Now, one to do performance and stutter, it's an obvious fear. So his father was in communications for 20 years in the Army, which is amazing, right? And never let his stutter get in his way. But Tim, on the other hand, had an extremely severe speech impediment until he was in his early 40s. Until one day, a gentleman from his church called him and asked him to do an announcement to a service of 250 people, and not only once, but 3 times the very same day. He could have said no, but instead he said yes. And ever since then, he's been embracing every public speaking opportunity he has to keep himself stronger. Tim credits his love and comfort with the world of comedy from years of using humor as a coping mechanism, as well as the untenable support of his loving family, who have always had a laugh or a joke to share. So I'm now very happy to introduce to you today's entertainment, Mr. Tim OHeron.
When I said I would do this a month ago, today seemed really far away, but it's here today. And I'm actually surprised that there's a room full of people, so thank you for coming. It's very true. This says comedy, and I hope that I can live up to it. So I want to thank you all for coming, and I want to welcome you to my 30-minute HBO special. And if I pass out, have a heart attack, then it might become my HMO special. So you should all feel privileged that I handpicked every single one of you out of a crowd of millions. And it's kind of like me picking my own firing squad. I've got my brick wall behind me. All I need now is the blindfold and the cigarette. We're ready to go. If I seem a little bit, I don't know. If I just don't seem like there's a lot of life in me right now, it's because I think I left my personality at home. But I did call it, and it said it will try to be here today. So at some point, if it does show up, I'll do the best I can to fake it. Also, I want to thank SLAC for allowing this free entertainment. This entertainment was awarded to the lowest bidder, and there was only one bidder, and that bidder said no money, and so $0 wins the award. Okay, so what are your expectations of this? This is my first time performing. Are you expecting a seasoned veteran like Jerry Seinfeld, George Carlin, Richard Pryor, yes. Bill Cosby? Sorry, folks. What you're going to end up with is more like a seasoned turkey ready for the roasting of it. I can't believe it. This is my first corporate gig. And I do want to thank, my sister for coming, and I see Allison back there, who's my neighbor and also works down at the Stanford campus. And I thank Allison especially for giving up her Stanford parking space. I'm looking for a parking space here. So I'm glad to see you here. I'm going to shoot for 30 minutes roughly, depending on how fast I talk and how little you laugh. So 20 to 30 minutes. You can think of me as the opening act and the headlining act. The opening act is usually not as funny as the headlining act. So if I never get funny, then the headliner never showed up. But if I start getting funny, then that's probably when the headliner's on the stage. So we'll see where this goes. And also, I'm not as good as these other guys. I can't memorize this stuff. And it's really hard to memorize this stuff when you're still thinking of things to say the very last day. So I have my notes right here that you don't know about. Let's see. You know, today, in this world we live in, everything has to be green. Or if it's not green, it's smart. We have green waste, we have smart cars, we have green buildings. This is a green building. It's an inefficient green building, but it's a green building. It's the same. We have green cars, green this, green that, and I would like to just let you know that I'm going to be joining in because I'm your green comedian. I'm going to call myself the clean green comedy machine. Although some people might beg to differ, I sometimes think of myself as the king of comedy. But you do have to realize there are bad kings as well as good kings. So I'll leave it up to you to determine what kind of king I am by the end of this. I need to look at my notes again. So one thing is, the speaker here is, I think there's a lot of feedback. It's because I can't get far enough away from it, so there's an echo. But I was appreciating feedback. I was hoping I would get it today. I am. So I'm happy for that. So, are you all ready for my comedy routine? You are?
Yes.
Good.
I thought it already started.
Well, let's do something better than this, baby. That's right, you're the one with the can of tomatoes, so. Well, I'm going to fulfill my promise to you. You will see my routine. That's 50% of it. It's the comedy part I can't promise. So if I do 50% for my first time, that's not bad. Right? Also, I have in this room, I have some secret plants, some unpaid hacks, weapons. They will laugh at just about anything I say. They carry the laughing virus. Once they start laughing, and once they unleash that virus, there's no stopping. And adrenaline is working very well right now. My mind goes blank. The funny part is you can laugh at just about anything, so it's okay to laugh at this as well. Back to the laughing virus. I'm going to call it comical warfare. Weapons of mass hysteria. I can see that it's not working. But it will. It takes time. So, I've been encouraged by friends for a number of years now to get into stand-up comedy. And I have been very reluctant because I just couldn't see how to make this work. And I finally figured it out, and I'll get into that more detail later on, but I finally figured out what I needed to do to make this work. And so here I am today. I know there's open mics around in San Jose and Sunnyvale where you go for 5 minutes or 7 minutes and you do your set. And I thought, well, I'm going to try those, but this might be a little safer environment. And yeah, I was having second thoughts about asking. So, as I was working this out for the last month in writing, I realized something, and that is, I didn't think this through very clearly. This is a little bit foolish, but it would have been much easier for me to do a 7-minute routine versus a 30-minute routine. Because I thought a 7-minute routine here would not be worth your while. So especially for those of you who are coming from, far away. Some of you coming from Building 41, for instance. Or wherever you're coming from. I woke up feeling a little funny this morning. I made myself some homemade pizza last night, and I think I had too much to eat. So I think I've come down with guacamole. But No, I did have a bug this morning. I thought I had a bug, so just to play it safe, I went to the doctor and asked him what he thought it was, and he said it's butterflies. And he said, don't worry though, it's a temporary strain, and he said you should be okay at about 12:30. So in about 20 minutes or so, I think that bug will go away. Anyhow, after I left the doctor's office, I was feeling pretty good about that. Wasn't anything serious. Hey Ben, don't look at me so seriously. I was thinking, anyways, I was excited that it wasn't anything major, so I went to the gas station and I put gas in my car, and I noticed I needed air in my tires. So I filled up all my tires and got to work and nothing flat. So I come from a pretty large family. The women in my family are knitters. The men in my family have wit, and I come from a bunch of nitwits. I have 4 older siblings. 2 of them are comedians, and 2 of them are captive audience members. The comedians are my brothers, Mike and Pat. They don't live in California anymore. They were kicked out because the state of California couldn't handle the 3 of us here. And Sheila and Colleen. Sheila's here today. And Colleen are my sisters who put up with us. So when Mike and Pat and I are together, we do get pretty crazy, and we laugh a lot, and all those around us laugh. We generate enough comedy to power a funny farm. And those who are on the receiving end of that laugh so hard they end up in the funny farm. It's a family farm. It's a family-run business. Speaking of farms, I have a really sad story to tell you. There was this farmer. Try not to laugh. There was this farmer. He came home. He was out doing some business. He came home. He found that his wife had left him for another man. And he also discovered that his tractor had been repossessed. Imagine coming home and finding 2 letters. One from your wife is a Dear John letter. And the other one is from the tractor company. It's a John Deere letter. So I want to say...
That was funny, right?
Very clever.
By the way, I just remembered something that I needed to read to you. I got an email today. This is really important. I should have done this earlier. Just hold on for a second here. I got an email after the list came out. I got an email this morning from the fire marshal's office. It's a memo. It's a memo stating the maximum occupancy allowable for the Mad River Conference Room shall be no greater than 35 persons at any one time. They go on to say, please adhere to our mandate, and under no special circumstances shall there be a number greater than 35 persons. Signed, the fire marshal. Well, I don't want to get us in trouble. And I think just like United Airlines, I've overbooked. So I'm going to have to randomly select somebody and ask that person. So I'm going to randomly ask Ralph Curran to please leave.
Random variance.
We don't want the fire marshal to come down on us. Because after all, Ralph, it says right here. Let me reread it. It says right here, the maximum number is 50. Oh, wait, that's not 35, it's 53. Looks like you can stay after all. And by the way, Ralph, Sheila's idea. Now I'm all out of order. Okay, so back to my brothers. I just want to say that symbolically, my brothers are here today. I'm holding Mike in my hand, and I will give you a pat answer every once in a while. Sometimes people ask me, are you illiterate? And I say, no, my parents were married when I was born. I love to talk, as some of you may know, and I don't do drugs. I'm all talk and no substance. I mean, no substance abuse. I attended Stanford University. You say 4 years? No, 6 hours. It was a photography class. Ask Sylvia, she was there with me. If you don't believe me.
It's okay, put it in your curriculum.
So I had these business cards made up that says Tim OHeron, MD. But I'm getting really tired of people asking me for medical advice. Heck, I'm a mechanical designer. What do I know about medicine? I really can't stand children. No, I can't stand screaming children. I had a shorthand on it. I missed the screaming part. I can't stand screaming children. I was at a restaurant one night, and there was this child whining for a whole hour about not wanting to eat their whatever they were eating. They just kept going on and on and on. It was a major hour outage. So I It's amazing. It's like sharing the ocean. So I have a confession to make. I swiped something from the store the other day. I thought I got away with it, but when I got home I started feeling really guilty. I swiped my ATM card through one of those machines. Yay, 2 down. So just to let you know that there will be punch served after this meeting today. I know I'm going to be thirsty, and I will be getting to the punchline. No, I'm just kidding. There's no punch served here. I really can't believe that this is actually happening today, that I'm standing here in front of a live audience. It is so amazing that I'm in front of a live audience. Like, yeah, whatever. Anyways, it's, what does that mean, live audience? Of course you're going to be live. It's not like, I went to a cemetery and did it there and no one laughed. That was a tough crowd, by the way. But I figure I can't do any worse here. So, not too bad. I also thought I was going to be very nervous here today, but I'm not, and that's an amazing thing. I'm really not nervous. I'm petrified. Yesterday, I was an aspiring comic. Now, I'm a perspiring comic. And I really hope that I remember to breathe because I don't want to become an expiring comic. My mouth is a little dry, so I do apologize for my dry humor. And I'm really glad that this is real live laughter. It's not canned laughter. At least I hope I don't get canned when this laughter is over. So I have been reading comedy books about getting into stand-up comedy. That's a true story. And one expert said that it takes about 10 years for a comedian to hit their stride, to get good. Well, I turned 57 last Monday. 10 years. I'm thinking by the time I get good, I could be dead. And I could just imagine the report. His audience died laughing, well, he died not breathing. Or he had his audience in stitches. Later that night, the mortician had him in stitches. You'll laugh later, Ben.
Take it on me.
Actually, as Stephanie had mentioned, comedy is not new to me. I've been doing stand-up comedy for about 40 years and getting paid too, although not getting paid to do stand-up comedy. Hopefully I can change that one day. I'm going to be obvious about that thing now. So there's 3 questions that I do get asked, and one time it was from a coworker. And she said, "Must you always be funny?" I said, "Yes." "Do you have any more questions?" And she said, "Can't you be serious just once?" And I said, "Yes. It happened about 15 years ago, and I think it was on a Saturday." Then she said, "Don't you take anything seriously?" I said, "Yes, I take stand-up comedy very seriously. It's not a laughing matter. I don't take my stand-up comedy sitting down." And I also tend to eat alone a lot too. I was working on this material the other day, and I looked out the window and I saw some mourning doves. And I went into a panic and I quickly locked my doors because I was worried that they would attempt a coup. I want to give my thanks here today. I want to first thank Rick T, who's my manager, for giving me this opportunity to get up here today. It was actually Rick who invited me to try this at one of our department meetings about 3 years ago, but I wasn't ready for it. He was concerned though. He said, "Please tell me that you won't talk about race." And I said, "What, do you mean like that story about the Daytona 500? I said, "Don't worry, Rick, I don't like racing. I do love football." He just looked at me. And then I said, "Are all sports jokes off the table?" Once again, he just looked at me. He said, "Just remember, keep it PC." I said, "Okay." Well, in an effort to keep it PC, I'm going to talk about that right now. And I promise I won't offend anybody. I just recently got a new desktop PC at work. And that thing kept freezing on me. That's a true story. I've had to cold boot that thing so many times it now has frostbite. That's BYTE. Speaking of frostbite, I used to live in the town of Felton. One morning it was so cold, I woke up to icicles. The next morning, it was misty. I woke up to misticles. Speaking of mysticals, I tried changing careers. I wanted to get into fortune telling, but I was making too many mistakes, and I lost a fortune on that. Then I also thought about maybe becoming a motivational speaker, but frankly, I don't have the energy to do what it takes to do that. There's another one down.
You have to go to the mall material, Tim.
What's that?
You have to go to the mall material.
Go to the mall material?
The mall material.
Thanks, Eric. I appreciate your support, by the way, Eric. Your magnet support, your vacuum chamber support. Eric and I work together. You're never going to guess what he designs. People sometimes come up to me and says, "Tim, can I be frank with you?" I say, "Why don't you just be yourself with me?" That is, unless your name is Frank. Then sure, you could be frank with me. But then I ask them, "Can I be Tim with you?" I want to give a big thanks to Stephanie for her help in doing this today. And I especially want to thank you, Stephanie, for arranging this date, even though I wasn't fully emotionally ready to do this. Thank you for pushing me into it, even though I told you, "Yeah, that's fine, that date will work." If it was up to me, I'd still be thinking about when I'm going to do this. here comes my favorite one. Rick J., I cannot thank you at all. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. I cannot thank you enough. You have been my very own personal heckler for the 6 years that I've known you. 6 long, painful years. But thanks to you, I have thick skin now. But it wasn't always thick. Back in the days when it was thinner, and smoother, and silkier. I wasn't ready for that heckling. And because of you, I'm still seeing the SLAC counselor today. I want to thank Catherine and Kelly for coming from the DOE. But it kind of bugs me, though, that we just can't get away from Big Brother, or Big Sister in this case. A guy can't even put on a comedy show without the government showing up. Oh, I have an HR story. You reminded me about the HR story. So, I was talking to my brother Mike a couple weeks ago on the phone, and he said he was so proud of me doing this. And I was telling him about, some of the people that I would be inviting. This is for you then. And I said, there is one woman in HR who I would like to come here. And he said, that's great. It would make it much easier for her to walk you out the door when it's over. So I decided against inviting her. Bill T. He's the reason why I'm really here. Bill, about 3 years ago, said, you got to try stand-up comedy. And I said, yeah, whatever. And I said, and so he kind of talked to me for a while, and it was like, the idea was intriguing. And I said, we'll do it someday. And so Bill started giving me exercises. Every single day he would give me a word, and he'd say, go home and think of something funny. And that put the pressure on.
True story.
It's a true story. And I have some pretty pathetic videos to prove it. So Bill said that he wanted to be my manager, and that's a true story. And he said he will be with me forever and never leave my side. That is until one day he realized that maybe I wasn't going to do this. Then he dropped me like a hot potato. But I've been talking to Bill recently. Oh, I talked to Bill yesterday. And here's what kind of encouragement I got from Bill. I hope you do well. I said, you want to be my manager? This is the beauty of, if you run out of your material, then you can just look around and start talking about me. I want to give a big thanks to Oscar for first up dressing up for me here today. And also thank you for staying way past your...
That's not funny.
You should have been home about 4 hours ago. There is one person in this room who I really want to thank, but she doesn't want me to use her name. So I'm not going to use her name. I'm going to call her Jane Goodall. Jane's been a good friend of mine, and she's been an encouragement to me. I've used a lot of my ideas on her, and I find that, yeah, she laughs, so she's definitely invited here. But I also want to thank her for the use of the karaoke machine, and her husband as well. Both good friends, so I'll call him Dr. Doolittle. But the mandate was now, I got this thing, and Jane Goodall says, now go home and practice. I said, okay. So I loaded it up in my car, and I'm driving home, and I'm thinking to myself, when I get home, I'm going to have to practice. So I get home, and I look at all the discs that are with this thing, and I pop a disc, and I start singing instead.
week.
After about 3 CDs later, I said, I guess I better start practicing. I want to give a big thanks to all my fans for keeping me cool in the summer. And now, folks, I think we've reached the end. I need to run. My internal cell phone is running and nature is calling. That's it. Did you hear tomorrow?
Where's your manager? We're still trying to find
No,
something.
you're fired. Yeah, you don't want Ben as your manager.
The one thing that I was thinking about this having working with all my coworkers, the thought occurred to me: what if I really bomb and they tell me to keep my day job? You guys have seen my work, so.
This is better. This is better.
No, thank you really.
That might be a compliment.
Thank you all for coming. This was a pleasure, and it went a lot better than I thought it would. So.
Thanks for making us laugh.
I had my beer.
Ready? Are you ready for me to take down the ambulance?
Yeah, you could take down the ambulance. The ambulance.
Yeah, that's a nice backdrop.
Yeah. Thanks to Stephanie
Yeah,
for
she
her.
did a good job. Helping.
Oh.